Hi, console room, and welcome to Starship Therapise, a reading with the crew. I am Justine Mastin, licensed marriage and family therapist, yogini, writer, and podcaster. I am here today with my wonderful co-author of our brand new book, Starship Therapise, Using Therapeutic Fanfiction to Rewrite Your Life, and I will let her introduce herself.
And I'm Larisa Garski. I'm a writer, researcher, marriage and family therapist, and the Spockian first officer of the Starship Therapise. And I'm so excited to be here with all of you today.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I didn't even say that I'm the captain. I hoped that it was just inferred in my demeanor. Yeah. So we're here today to talk to you a little bit about our new book and a little bit about what we do so that, you can decide whether you want to hop aboard the Starship Therapise with us. If you enjoy our banter today, we also have a podcast also called Starship Therapise. We're really, we're all in on the Starship Therapise thing.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that that's the only fandom that we cover.
No.
In fact, the reading we're going to do for you today is a supernatural themed reading. So we are friends of multi fandoms. So, Larisa, what would you say that we do?
I mean, we do many things, but I think the core, the center of the Venn diagram where all those things overlap, is exploring ways that we can use fandom to heal in terms of psychotherapy and mental health.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And that's really what our book is all about. It's all about exploring ways to use fandom and philosophy, which might sound dull, but it's actually quite fun and funny. Exploring ways to use those ideas and themes and characters and tools to rewrite your life and heal what needs healing and pass back what needs passing back and keeping what needs keeping.
Yeah. And if friends at home, you are thinking, wait, why do I need to rewrite my life? You don't need to do anything.
No. Good point.
You don't need to do anything. We're coming at this like from a fanfic perspective, right? Like sometimes the writers just don't get it quite right. Like this season of life, season 2020, like the writers have gotten it pretty turned around, I would say.
What a really gentle and diplomatic way of putting that, sir.
Just trying to keep it positive.
Yes.
And a lot of what happened in 2020 was outside of our control. We couldn't change the writing on that. But some of our personal stories, we could tweak that narrative a little bit. And that's what we're hoping to help people do, is take a look at what they do have control over in their story and how do they feel like that story is going. If you feel like, I just don't like the way the writers are handling my romantic relationship. Okay, well, what do we want to do with that? Do we want to keep it and hate watch it? Or do we want to
I'm just going to hit pause and name that I have some drilling happening where I am right now. So folks, if you hear the drill, we're just practicing the tool of radical acceptance. So this would be something that the writers have written in to our day together that we do not have control over, but we have control over how we're responding to it. And I am trying to channel my inner Gandalf the Grey, and bring humor and calm to what I find to be a somewhat frustrating situation.
Oh, yep, there's the drilling. I was going to say we can't hear it, but then I could. So
Yeah. It like came in right on cue, you know?
Yeah, but I love actually what you just said, because what Larisa was doing right there is therapeutic fan fiction in action.
Mm-hmm.
She identified a problem, which is her neighbors doing construction, and she can't stop that. Can't go over there and say, "Excuse me,
No.
could you please stop renovating your home? I am recording for a convention," which I think would require a lot of explanation, and they still wouldn't stop. But like, how can I handle this uncomfortable situation?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I can do is I can look at this narrative, realize I have no control over the negative event,
Mm-hmm.
but I can control my actions. And what archetype, what character from fandom could be part of my fellowship, part of my team to help me through this? And Gandalf, always a great choice. What's happening for you over there?
Well, there's a lot of sounds that are happening for me, so I'm just like nodding and trying to really exude those physical cues of affirmation while I keep myself on mute, because like the whole wall is shaking at times.
I really hope that your neighbors are getting joy sparked for them with their home renovation.
Me too. I feel like I'm like living through the first book, Fellowship of the Ring, you know, where they go to Helm's Deep. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Good times.
good times. I mean, well, this might be another wonderful opportunity to highlight a skill and tool that's in our book, the shittily wrapped gift.
The shittily wrapped gift.
Right? So the wrapping paper
Well,
is awful.
And what a great time to bring this up, because it's folks at home are watching this right after the winter holiday gift giving season.
Yes, they certainly are. Would you like to explain the shittily wrapped gift? Because I think the drilling is going to be coming back here at any moment.
Sure. And I also heard a noise. I think my partner decided now is a good time to work on the plumbing. So, what a beautiful gift we've been given. So, what shittily wrapped gifts are, is literally what it sounds like, right? There is a gift inside of this just ugly, horrible, do not want it wrapping paper. And this isn't a gift that we asked for. We often don't ask for gifts unless it's, a gift giving season. Right. Or, child birthdays. Oftentimes gifts are freely given, and we didn't ask for them and we didn't expect them. And sometimes gifts aren't that great. Sometimes someone gets you a gift, they don't know you very well, or they're getting the gift because they want to get it for you, not because they actually think you would enjoy it. And shittily wrapped gifts are given to us by the fates, the universe, whatever you want to call the force. And these are often important lessons for us to learn. And they're brought to us with uncomfortable surroundings. So right now, we have been given the gift of mindfulness.
Yes, the opportunity to engage mindfully.
Yeah, because our shitty wrapping paper is noise that causes us to have to be more intentional in our focus. And actually, it is a gift. We want to be able to use the skill of mindfulness. And as one of my mentors once said, anyone can meditate in a quiet room. It takes real skill to meditate in a room in which there's distraction. So the distraction is the shittily wrapped gift. And in the moment, you might just be like, this isn't a shittily wrapped gift, this is just shit.
Sometimes both are true.
That's right. That's right. It's not an either or. It's a both and. Yeah. And we talk about this in depth in the book. And I definitely should have checked with our friends at Console Room if swearing was okay, because there will be more of that.
There will.
Perhaps this video will have a disclaimer. Ages 12 plus.
Viewer discretion advised.
Yeah, viewer discretion advised. You know your family. I don't know your family.
Right. No.
Why did we write this book?
Why did we write this book? I mean, at the core of it, I think we wanted to help people. That's part of what drew us each to the therapeutic professions. And two, we're at what feels like a very pivotal moment in our world's history. And stories have often been the ways that both in micro and macro ways, we as human beings not just understand what's going on around us, but it's also how we enact change. And we felt like this book could help people not just take back power in their own lives, but also take back some of the stories that are so meaningful for them. And really look at the ways that fan fiction is such a beautiful, wonderful art form. And it's not lesser than canon. It's just another way to tell the story.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, folks at home, you are probably well familiar with fanfic. But in the event that you invited a friend to watch this with you who
was just unaware of what fan fiction or headcanon is.
Yeah. Quick and dirty. What fanfic is when we create a story that deviates a bit from the canon, which is the way the writers wrote it. So we were talking about Lord of the Rings. We could look at Lord of the Rings strictly as canon, which is only the books. Or maybe once the movies came out, you included the movies in canon. So, you know, that's also what J.R.R. Tolkien intended, even though it was
different. Just to be diplomatic, it was a different rendering of his story.
Right. Or you could really very honestly say that the movies are fanfic. Or parts of them are. I would say absolutely The Hobbit is fanfic. The Hobbit films are fanfic.
Yes.
You know, our good friend
PJ. We like to call him PJ in our
I was trying to remember what you called him, yeah.
Of course, we're actually referring to Peter Jackson.
You know, he looked at the canon, which is the books, and said to himself, well, but what if Legolas was there?
What if Legolas had a girlfriend? Because PJ tends to err towards the side of heteronormative storytelling.
Yeah. And I am in no way saying that the films are lesser.
No.
Because they incorporate fan fiction. This allows story to grow. And from Larisa and my perspective, as soon as a story is created, it is part of a mythos. It is part of the mythology of our lives, and nobody gets to own it anymore, which is part of how we make sense of J.K. Rowling.
Yes.
Because we don't need her around to love Harry Potter.
That's true. Yeah. Once a story is created, it's out there in the world, and we all get to be a part of it. We all get to co-create its meaning, and we get to write different stories with those characters. Now, from a legal perspective, an organization like Disney might come after you if you try to publish your own book of Baby Yoda stories or Grogu stories, depending on like what name really fits for you. But what we want to offer in our book is that while Disney can do that, they actually maybe don't have the right to do that. Because nobody gets to own characters whose first origins are in the collective unconscious, which is like, I don't know, think of it like a big ethereal soup full of characters and tropes that we can all access with our imaginations. Nobody gets to own that.
No, of course they don't. And it's very easy for us to sit here and say, of course they don't. But, you know, Disney execs would absolutely be like, no, we own Mickey Mouse. And we own Luke Skywalker. Like, nah, you don't.
It doesn't spark joy, though. You're right. At any rate, though, our book is really, it does many things. And one of the things that it definitely does, and we hope that it helps you do, is use these powerful stories from both ancient and modern myth to rewrite your life and change things that you want to change, keep things that you want to keep, and really take back the power of storytelling, because Disney doesn't own Luke Skywalker. And their version of Luke Skywalker is no more correct or accurate than the stories that you tell about him. And in the same way that, like, Mark Hamill isn't the only person that gets to embody him, like, neither are, like, I'm not, you're not, like, you know, viewers out there, we each can embody Luke Skywalker when we need to, just like I did 15 minutes ago when I was like, I'm going to embody Gandalf. Gandalf is what I need.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know that I've ever thought about it quite this way, but now that we're talking about it, when you brought up both Star Wars and the collective unconscious at the same time, like, the collective unconscious is kind of the Force.
Yeah. Ooh, that kind of just gave me chills.
Because it's around us and within us.
It is. We
can tap into it for power. And all the old stories are there, right? Like when Obi-Wan says, if you strike me down, I should become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. It's because he was going into the collective unconscious.
Yeah. Where we could all connect with him.
Yeah, where we could all tap into his power.
Oh, I love that. This is what I miss about conventions. You learn such amazing things just by being together in the same, virtual space.
I know. And, oh, goodness, I wish I'd had this epiphany when we were still writing the book.
It's in there, though. Don't worry. I'm going through the proofs right now. It's in there.
Okay, great. The collective unconscious is in there.
Yes.
Maybe we can throw in that it's like the Force. We'll see. They don't let you do much editing at this stage.
No, but, this means that there's room for a sequel.
Yes. Starship Therapise 2.
Meet the whales.
Thanks for all the fish.
Thanks for all the fish. Well, I think we've done a nice job of sort of like ambling around and introducing our book and talking about some of the things that readers will find there. Shall we segue into the reading?
Yes, and before we do that, I want to do one more bit of ambling, because so that people can understand why this section makes sense, right? So, so each chapter follows some topic in self-help, relationships, coping, self-care, and each chapter ends with a fan fiction case study. And all that means, because if you're not in the therapy world, you might be like, case study, what does that mean? In the therapy world, a case study is when we present someone we're working with. Yes. And in this case, we do a little fanfic, because what would a fanfic book be without our own little fanfic, of what it would be like if we were doing therapy with some of our fandom favorites. Yep. And in the book, we come at it from the perspective that Larisa's Spock and I share a mind because of a Vulcan mind meld, which means we speak with one unified voice.
The Spockian, Kirkian we, which was a concept that was very difficult for some of our editors to grasp. But if they didn't grasp it eventually, they did at least accept it. And we invite and encourage you to do the same. One or the other, or both, whatever works.
Whatever works for you. And you know what? A lot of what we talked about was hard for our editors. We're talking about some pretty radical shit here, which is that that stories help us make sense of our world, and that they are just as important as anything that happens IRL, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, some of our readers took issue with too. Uh, right? So you want to get in there, find out which side you sit on. So each chapter ends with one of these fanfic case studies and some questions for reflection. And because I'm a yoga teacher, also ends with a yoga sequence or mindfulness meditation. Mm-hmm. So you are getting a holistic healing fandom experience.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Right? So excited.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Without further ado, let's read. And this is from chapter 6 of the book. Mm-hmm. And that chapter is titled When Fandom Betrays Us.
So it's looking at maladaptive coping in a wide variety of forms. And for those of you who are familiar with the supernatural fandom, it will come as no surprise that when we were thinking about who should we select for our therapy fanfic character, that it was none other than someone from the supernatural universe. Mm-hmm. Let's kick off the reading so you can find out who. I bet some of you can guess.
All right. Fanfic case study. Supernatural, saving memories, hunting shame, the family legacy. After a year-long stint as in-home therapists in the gaming universe of Hyrule, we decide to spend some time in environs that bring back memories of our Midwestern youth. The windswept plains of Lawrence, Kansas. Where stories go to end. Or is it begin? At any rate, we just finished setting up our office when we hear the waiting room door open and shut, and then open and shut again. Distant sounds of swearing and grumbling can be heard. We walk the few steps out to the entryway to find a compact yet beautiful man scanning the waiting room uneasily as he shifts from one booted foot to the next, bow-leggedly making his way back towards the front door.
Can we help you?
Son of a bitch! Sorry, yeah, I'm looking for the Jefferson Starships. Starship doctors. Or Starship Therapists? Ugh, I'm gonna kill Sammy. Listen, your name is weird, but my specialty is weird, so why the hell not? He clears his throat and reaches for the flask clearly outlined in his left breast pocket, but then thinks better of it. Are you the spaceship guys? Ladies? He makes an attempt at a smile, and possibly a wink. We decide to definitely take it personally.
Why don't you come in and tell us what's going on?
Dean Winchester. Monster hunter, Aquarius, beachwalker, lover of frisky women and men.
Good to meet you, Dean.
Once we settle into our office, Dean's demeanor changes, and he seems markedly on edge. No longer thinking about leaving, he is in a heightened state of vigilance. We offer him some tea. He makes a face that we take for a no and move on.
Could you tell us a bit about what brought you here today? We gather it wasn't entirely your choice. You mentioned Sammy?
My kid brother, though he's big as a moose. He said I need to feel my feelings. And I don't know, maybe I do. My childhood was real messed up. And my adulthood, well, it ain't any better.
That sounds hard, Dean. How do you deal with things being so difficult?
You just keep swinging. It's the only way. I'll go down swinging. We exchange glances.
It sounds like you've been fighting all your life. When you weren't fighting, Dean. Or rather, when you aren't fighting, Dean, what do? Who is important to you?
He shifts uncomfortably in his chair, and already almost on the very edge, he nearly falls. He steadies himself in a manner that plays to a desire for utter coolness. My family's the most important to me. Family's all I got. Sammy, Cass, and Jack. I lost my mom when I was a kid, although I got her back for a while. Long story. My dad was an ass, but I loved him. Man, how I looked up to him. Dean pauses as a single tear runs down his cheek. Gotta see him one last time, too. Big dysfunctional family dinner. We pause and allow Dean to sit with his feelings. So, can you fix me? Or am I too far gone? We smile kindly at him.
Fixing isn't what we do, Dean. We don't believe in broken. You had so much loss in your life. You didn't have people to show you how to cope with it all. People think that somehow we all just inherently know how to take care of ourselves, but that isn't true. We learn how to do it, and unfortunately, you were alone a lot.
Dean continues to cry softly. I had Bobby. Bobby was there.
Tell us about Bobby.
Bobby was the absolute best. Dad would leave us with him when we were kids, and he would take me out just to play ball. He was a hunter too, but we weren't always hunting. But we definitely didn't talk feelings. Bobby drank. He lost his wife, and I know there was something about his folks, but he never told us. I guess all I've ever known how to do is get through the day with a bottle, a girl, no offense, and some Zeppelin.
Well, we can't argue with Zeppelin.
Dean looks up, quickly wiping away his tears. Yeah? You two fans? We nod. I didn't know they played Zeppelin on the Jefferson... Excuse me. I didn't know they played Zeppelin on the Jefferson Starship. We chuckle and offer.
Learned all kinds of things in therapy school.
Yeah, I'll bet. I always thought Sammy should have gone in for that. He used to think he wanted to be a lawyer, but I never saw him that way. Sammy wasn't an arguer. Not really. He sure likes talking about feelings, opening up. Never had an experience he didn't want to talk about.
What's that like for you, Dean?
For me? It's fucking weird. And not the djinn kind of weird. Djinns, vampires, give me a Rougarou and I'm good for the day. But honestly, I don't know what feelings are even for. What good do they do you? They just make you freeze up when you gotta move. Blink when you gotta stay focused. My first hunt, I nearly got my dad killed because I was so busy feeling I couldn't even hold the crossbow straight.
How old were you, Dean?
That doesn't matter. A hunter's always gotta be ready. We hold the silence for a few breaths, and then... I was 8, he says.
You were 8.
Yeah, but I shouldn't have frozen up. That was stupid.
Dean, have you interacted with an 8-year-old recently?
Dean thinks for a moment. Yeah, I guess I saved one not too long ago. Why?
How would you describe that 8-year-old?
I don't know. Some stupid kid. Wait. We're all just stupid fucking kids, aren't we? It wasn't fair what the old man asked me to do.
No, Dean, it wasn't fair. Your dad experienced a terrible loss, and he couldn't take care of himself. You stepped up and did things that were way out of the scope of a little kid. Now the challenge is learning how to be your own parent, how to be the dad you didn't get. Not for Sammy, not for Jack, just for you.
Dean's voice catches in his throat. What about me?
You're important too, Dean.
I guess. But what am I supposed to do with these feelings? You seriously do not expect me the next time I encounter a Rougarou to just feel at him, do you?
Well, not exactly, no. But you might try feeling afterward.
What would that even look like? Dean reaches into his pocket and fidgets with the flask.
Well, this might sound strange, but have you ever journaled?
Dean scoffs. You kidding me? All the time! How else am I going to keep track of all the monsters we hunt and how to kill them? Jesus! I'm smart, but I'm not a cyclist. Jesus, I'm smart, but I'm not encyclopedia smart. I write it down so I can, reference it later.
Okay, great. So you're already an experienced journaler. How about adding just a bit to that? What if in addition to adding info about the beast, you also talked about what it was like for you to hunt, about how you felt and how this particular time impacted you and your family?
That sounds weird.
And monster hunting isn't?
Touche, Jefferson Starship. Touche. Okay, so I write down my feelings and then what?
Well, first, you can bring those thoughts and feelings in here and share them with us. And then we'll look at the ways that you deal with difficult feelings. And you can decide whether or not those coping skills are serving you or harming you or both. And you might decide to change some behavior. And then at some point, maybe you share what's going on with Sammy or Cass or Jack. But that's all down the road. For now, just write down the feelings without judging them or yourself.
Dean just stares for a moment. This may be the hardest thing I've ever done. We nod.
It is. But if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be important.
Yay! Oh, that was fun. Claps.
Well, it really was. And I used my Gandalf mindfulness to like time the mutes with the drills for the most part.
Mm-hmm. You did great.
Thank you. We're all doing our best, like Dean and Sammy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We are just doing our best. And it was another panel that I'm on for this convention was the Supernatural retrospective.
Yes.
And yeah. And so I just watched the finale recently, and it was a little hard to embody Dean there for a moment, because I know the end of his story.
Well, you know a end to his story.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I know the canonical ending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I don't know that would be my ending for him.
No.
No, you know why? Because there would be no ending for him.
No, he would keep going with his life partner Cass. Drive off together. No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. That sounds great. Okay, well, when we mentioned that we were going to be doing this panel, we got some questions from folks.
We did.
So, let's see, what did folks want to know?
Are these questions somewhere that I could read them?
They would be in the Telegram.
They would be in the wonderful. Love a good Telegram. Okay. Okay, here's the first one.
You found them?
Shall I read it aloud?
Yes, read aloud, please.
All right, here we go. Will there be a bundle option with a journal eventually? Because that would rock my world. Haha. I'm sure that like there was a little bit more of like a guttural haha to this, but you know, acting isn't in my wheelhouse. I'm doing my best.
You did great. You did great.
Thank you.
Luckily, you are a therapist, so you didn't. You didn't have to really pull from anything to embody the therapist. So we asked about this bundle option because we also think this would be a pretty sweet idea. And at least for now, our publisher, it's not something that they do. But they did say, based on sales and requests from folks, that they would be willing to give it some thought. So buy the book, tell them you want a journal.
Yes.
And the book
tweet them, email them, write on our Instagram page.
We want journals.
Yes.
The book is currently available for pre-sale from all of the
major and minor booksellers, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you can support local business, or if you just like knowing that it's gonna arrive with your Amazon Prime, you can get it on Amazon too.
Right. No judgment.
Yeah. The official release date, though, that was another question, is May the 4th, 2021. So Star Wars Day. Our publisher really gets us. I appreciate.
And you know, someone said to us recently that they really appreciated that we're like bringing together the Star Trek and the Star Wars fandom. So long, mainstream media tried to pit us against each other. But we're really, you know, making it clear that we need not be adversaries.
No, you don't need to pick a team.
No,
we're not team pitted against each other. We are all one team against the problem, whatever the problem is.
Oh, Michael White and David Epstein would be so proud.
Oh, nice job. Good. You pronounced that very well.
Yeah.
And if you're unfamiliar, those two gentlemen were the creators of narrative therapy, which is kind of a crux of our work. Yeah, so no journals yet. So if we do pose a lot of questions to you along the way as you're reading, so you'd want to have a journal nearby if you are a writer, downer thinker, or a quiet space for you to go into your mind palace if you are a self-talker, inner thinker person.
Inner monologuer, processor.
Yes. What else was on our question list?
Another question that a fan had is, do you need to be well versed in Star Trek to get something out of this book?
You don't. You don't. I mentioned earlier that we embrace multiple fandoms. In this book, we talk about so many fandoms.
So many fandoms.
When the publisher asked for a list of all the fandoms that we reference, we were unable to provide that. And they were eventually like, I don't know, just give us a dozen. So
yes. And we did.
But
yeah, like we pull from all the major genres. So movie, TV, manga, comic book, anime, video game, and make sure when it comes to video games to really try and pull from both like indie and mainstream video games. Same with the comic books.
Yeah. So there, feedback that we got from our Betazoid readers was that even if you didn't understand or know the particular fandom we were talking about in the moment, we gave enough other examples of other fandoms that they were able to pick up on what was going on.
Yep. Very true.
So even if you have never played the video game Outer Wilds,
sure,
we're going to explain it well enough that you're going to know what we're talking about, and we're going to pull in enough other references that you're going to be able to make sense of it.
Yes. I mean, if you are a human that is like really realistically 5 years old or older, I'm imagining maybe you are 5 and you can read this. Most likely a larger adult human is going to be reading this to you. Then like you're going to find there are going to be fandoms in here that that are going to like hit you right in the feels. And then there's going to be fandoms, some of which you've probably never heard of, that might spark some interest, some curiosity. And then maybe you'll go out there and plan Outer Wilds, or I don't know, pick up the Dark Crystal TV series.
Yeah. And we cast a really wide net for our fandoms. So, you got your sci-fi fantasy stuff that you're expecting from a couple of nerds. But then we got the Golden Girls and Wishbone, that show with the Jack Russell Terrier.
And we brought in some like old school philosophy. We brought in some like, standards in literature like Jane Austen and Charlotte Bronte and Zora Neale Hurston. So, I mean, really, if there is a kind of story that you love, like you will probably find it in here. I think the only fandom we really don't have in here is sports. But even then, like we have yoga. And we give voice to different kinds of ways to move your body. So,
And you name drop Madden football. Does that count?
That's right. I hope so. No, full disclosure. So this is a fun story. And like we dedicate the book to our clients, which we mean wholeheartedly. And part of where that comes from is that we got some of our like most wonderful ideas in working with our clients. And I had learned about Madden from a former client of mine, and I actually didn't really even know what Madden was. Like I didn't know it was a sports reference. It wasn't.
You didn't know Madden was like, a dude?
I thought so, maybe. But it like wasn't essential to the work that we were doing at the time for me to know like details of Madden. I just had to know the broad strokes, namely the name of the game. And so then when we went to write the book and we got copy edits back, when our copy editor was like, why are you spelling it like the footwear? And I was like
Steve Madden.
Right, like Steve Madden. I was like, fair. Mm-hmm. Good point, friend. Learning. It happens every day.
Well, and I asked you, I was like, do you mean Madden football? And you were like, I do. I'm like, okay, yeah, we don't spell it like that. Because my partner is a sportsy fella.
Right.
And so I'm familiar with Madden the human.
That's amazing.
And that there is a game.
And that there's a game starring Madden the human. These video games aren't in this book, but I'm sure they'll make it into the sequel, the Tony Hawk games that just got remastered. I know folks are very excited about those. Full disclosure, I haven't played them yet, but I probably will once I make my way through Animal Crossing. Yeah.
I remember loving playing those skateboard games when I was a younger human.
They were really big. Well, they still are. What am I saying? And there was, for a while, there was like one on smartphones that was basically a ripoff. And back when I did it on family therapy, all my little kids, they were like, yes, we'll do this like play-based activity, Larisa, to learn coping skills for feelings. But then can I play 5 minutes of my skateboarding game? And the answer was yes.
Right. Because that's how you do in-home family therapy with children.
Yes. 100%. 100%.
Actually, that's how you do any kind of therapy with children or teenagers.
Yes. Or teenagers. So honestly, adults too. I can't believe it took us this long to like name this, but like a central tenet of how we show up as therapists and how we wrote this book is this idea that like play is important at any and every age. How you play shifts and changes based on where you're at and things like what's developmentally appropriate. And play is so important for us as adults. And if you take nothing else from this talk and from the book, we hope that you take the permission to play on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way I phrased it recently when I was kind of trying to explain this to someone was one of the shittily wrapped gifts of the 2020, the 2020 story is that suddenly adults got permission to play.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing else we were supposed to be doing, right? And so play was no longer this forbidden waste of time. It was in fact a valuable survival skill.
Yeah.
And spoilers, it's always a valuable survival skill.
Yeah.
It's just, societally, we decided that we were kind of going to take the stigma off it for a year while all this was happening. But I'm saying let's take the shittily wrapped gift of play being destigmatized and just like fucking roll with it.
Yeah, let's keep it. Let's make that part of the newness of really the rest of our history that we are embarking on.
Yeah, let's fanfic it.
Love that. Okay, I'm looking at our questions. We probably only have time for one more. This one is from someone whom I'm assuming is a therapist, because their question is, how do I incorporate more fandom into my own therapy work?
A great question. And that is a whole nother talk.
True.
But what I will say is, Larisa and I have already done one training for therapists, and we plan to actually start doing quite a bit more. We're going to try and get in with a company that just like does continuing ed stuff. So that's our hope is that's going to happen in 2021, 2022. But we are also available for contract work. So if you want to like bring us to your company to talk to your therapists about how to do this, we are happy to. And eventually in the hopper is a book just for therapists, or more geared towards therapists. That one's not happening for a little while though.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while on that one. I think that we very much wrote this book for for readers, for fans, for clients, but also keeping very much in mind that therapists, like, you can use this as a workbook with your clients, and that there are lots of ways that you can use the tools and skills that we talk about in the book, and incorporate it in the actual work that you're doing as a therapist. And on the flip side too, you know, for those of you out there who are clients and are thinking, wow, I want to bring more fandom into my therapy. My therapist has never once referenced Boba Fett, and I need to. In my own work with them.
And I need to.
We have a whole chapter, I want to say it's chapter 10, that focuses on how to engage your therapist in these kinds of conversations, how to find a therapist whose niche really is working in fandom. And you can also, like, get the book, bring it to your therapist and be like, hey, I want to use this in our work together.
Yeah. And, like, spoilers, you can do that. I know I've had folks ask me, like, can I ask my therapist to do something? Can I ask my therapist to, like, yeah, you can always ask. They might say no. Like, that's always a chance.
Yes.
Well, especially if, you know, your therapist practices a particular style of therapy with which they don't quite mesh with this.
Right.
But you can always tell your therapist what you're interested in and what is meaningful to you.
Yes.
And if they won't listen to that, then we might need to have some questions around what's happening for therapist.
Yeah.
Because if you're coming in and you're saying, I had some big feelings about what's happening with Boba Fett.
Right.
And your therapist says, well, that's pathological. You should not be having big feelings about fictional characters. That's an invitation
for you.
Right, that's an invitation to ask therapists some more questions around, like, hey therapist, have you done any continuing ed on geek culture, fandom culture, because these are cultural competencies.
Yes. They are definitely cultural competencies. And I want to kind of highlight video gaming too, because I think that it feels like it continues to be the part of fandom culture that gets the most negativity in the psychotherapy, psychological spheres. And so if you're going to a therapist and they come down really hard on any and all video gaming and are really working on not just finding a balance with you for it in your life, but like really looking at maybe like minimizing it so you just hardly game at all, that too might be an indicator that it's time to find someone who takes a more holistic approach to fandom and video gaming. Because video gaming is a wonderful way to play and connect with others. It isn't just a maladaptive coping strategy.
Right. Just like all aspects of life, we can get out of balance and do something so much that we are not focusing on other aspects of our life. And, like, of course, video games were designed to really hold our attention.
Yes.
That doesn't make them bad. And it does seem like there are certainly folks in our field who have decided just to stamp video games specifically with that label. And if somebody comes in and says, I feel like I'm gaming too much, like, okay, let's find a way for you to stop gaming entirely. Like, whoa, no, that's not what I wanted. I want to game and leave myself some time to bake banana bread.
Right. And also, you know, go to the bathroom, take a shower, exit my domicile with, you know, the proper masking affixed to my face.
Right. So that was a very long answer.
Yes.
And we started answering a question we weren't asked, but what else is new? Is to say concerning with your therapist.
Yes.
You know, the whole thing is there are therapists for all different sorts of folks. And if you don't feel a fit with your therapist, that's okay. And we're used to that.
Well, and I think sometimes it's helpful to frame it, to use the Star Wars framing and think about like Obi-Wan and Yoda, right?
Oh, love that. Yeah.
Like Obi-Wan had so much to offer to Luke and to teach Luke, and there were things that like he just wasn't going to be able to do, right? Because like he's a full-sized human. Luke was never going to be able to carry Obi-Wan on his back while he practiced his
Oh,
gymnastics.
for an awesome run through the forest. Yeah.
Right. He could only do that with Master Yoda. And it is often like that with, in terms of like working with your therapist, that like you have a therapist for a time, for a reason, for a season. And then maybe you do need to move to a different Jedi Master, not because anybody's doing anything wrong, but because you need someone with a different area of specialization.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I mean, since we're at a Doctor Who convention, I mean, the doctors are a great example of this too.
They are.
Like all the doctors have the same underlying skill, right? Because they are all the Doctor. But each iteration of the Doctor is a different personality. And you know, if you mesh well with 11, you might not mesh well with 9.
Right.
And that's
no
okay.
Judgment.
Like,
that's okay.
No judgment, right? Just because they all have the same underlying skill set doesn't mean you're going to mesh with all of them. And that's true of therapists. And just because you didn't get along with 1 doesn't mean you aren't going to get along with 4.
Well said.
Thank you. The Doctor numbers, as an aside, were very difficult for our editor.
Yeah, they were.
They wanted us to say 4th Doctor. 1st Doctor.
10th Doctor. It was a process. You know, we all got to learn something.
We did all get to learn something. We got to learn and we got to teach.
We did.
Isn't that great?
I know it's time to start to wind down. And so I'm going to ask you what we often ask one another on our podcast and definitely in our sessions as therapists. What are we hoping that people will walk out of here with or take away with? What are some takeaways for today?
Yeah, I mean, the reason that I wanted to do this was obviously to get people to learn more about our book, because I want folks to pick it up. But also, I'm really passionate about letting folks know that they have a voice and they have options in their life, both to make self-help changes as well as to advocate for themselves in the realm of psychotherapy.
Yes.
And it's like the A1 reason that I started doing conventions all those years ago was just to show up and say, hey, nerds, you are worth it. You are awesome. And there are people who know how to work with you. And now we finally have this resource to hand to you and say, and here are some ways to start doing the work at home yourself too. Because you're worth it, because you matter. And the things that you care about are important. How about for you?
That's so well said.
Thank you.
I mean, of course, completely agree and support what you just said. I guess I hope that people take a sense of hope from our talk today. Not that everything is going to be amazing or amazingly different right off the gate in 2021. We all know it's not. But that folks feel more hopeful about ways to start making some of the changes that they want to make in their own individual lives and becoming a part of maybe larger movements in terms of some of the social, cultural, civic changes that we might want to be making in our local governments and our national governments and our international ways of being and connecting with one another.
Lovely. All right. So, where can friends find you if they want to stay connected, Larisa?
Friends can find me on our Instagram, which is Starship_Therapise. They can find me on Twitter at Spock's All Ears, which you pointed out so accurately, probably last week. It's a very niche space, what I'm doing on my Twitter account. So if you enjoy I don't know, witticisms about Dragon Age video games, and also Hegelian Marxist dialectics, come on down. You know, then this is the Twitter for you. You'll really enjoy it. Also, if you enjoy looking at cute pictures of wolves, I retweet the like hourly wolf account quite frequently. So, you know,
I do enjoy those. Yes, I was giggling very hard. I have no idea what you had posted, but I just responded with a Marx gif.
That was really, really great. And then on Christmas, I was like live tweeting. I've been rereading the Dialectic of Enlightenment, and I live tweeted that on Christmas. There were like 2 people who commented, which is fine. Again, a small but scrappy band.
That's, you know what? If you're a Kirk, get you a Spock. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Mind Body Fandom, because I take a holistic approach to healing, mind, body, and fandom. You can also find me at my website, blueboxcounseling.com. And we are about to have a very spanky brand new website just for Starship Therapise. That's starshiptherapise.com. If you go check it out and it's not quite up yet, it's coming real soon. And please pre-order our book. We would so appreciate it. And the book's title again is Starship Therapise: Using Therapeutic Fanfiction to Rewrite Your Life by Garski and Mastin, wherever books are sold. And we can't wait to hear what you think once you get it on May the 4th.
Very excited.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of Console Room. To check out everything else that's happening at Console Room, go to console-room.com. And if you want to see me run my mouth more, I will be on the Picard panel on the 16th at 7 p.m. with a couple of other great nerds. And I'm looking forward to talking some Trek. So, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.